We all still know and love you from Baywatch, but you are now an activist, an environmentalist and a political campaigner and a feminist. But yesterday on your website, you said other feminists don't like you. Why is that?
Well, it's actually a quote from Camille Paglia. I like to quote. I love her. I think she's fantastic, and I think I have a similar view when it comes to feminism. I think this third wave feminism is kind of boring and actually isn't helpful at all. And I write a lot on my blog. I like to write all my feelings out. I can articulate myself a lot better this way, but I'm going to write a book called Saving Women from Feminism.
What does that mean?
I think be careful what we wish for. I still believe in romantic love and chivalry, and I wrote a book called Lust for Love that comes out in April with Rabbi Shmuley, which is a very interesting, bizarre coupling. His from kind of a religious point of view and trying to keep marriages together, and me just from a romantic and kind of a sexy life and you know, wanting men to make the first move, and also being the mother of two young boys and concerned for them and their and for them to be able to have the security and feel confident enough to take that role as man in a relationship and to respect women. And it's complicated. I think that, you know, this is great. I mean, feminism obviously has come, the last 50 years have given us so much freedom and so many great things. But I think that in some cases, even in progressive countries like Sweden, a condom breaks and it's a sexual assault. I mean, that's just going too far.
You're talking about Julian Assange, who we will come back to. How do you think being a Playboy playmate fits in with you being a feminist?
I know. Well, no one forced me to be a playmate, and the Playboy culture is fantastic, and I think Hefner was an incredible pioneer and really empowered women and empowered a lot of people in vulnerable positions, and was a civil rights activist and, you know, art lover and freedom fighter, and just created this really fun lifestyle that I wish everybody could be a part of. It wasn't as sleazy or terrible as people might think. It was very respectful and wonderful, and girls made careers out of this.
But what about people who say it's equivalent to colluding with men who objectify, exploit women?
I think it goes both ways. I think that, you know, women have our ways, and men maybe are a little rough around the edges sometimes. And as a parent of two young boys, that's really important to teach our kids to be respectful. And, you know, but there is that, you know, uncomfortable. You know, as women, we don't want to know everything that men maybe talk about, or it's just. I think we need to just relax a little bit and be who we are, and it's fun. I think it's a powerful position to be a woman, and we do have superpowers. And I like to use them.
Do you think the Me Too and Time's Up movements are helping to empower women?
I think it's great to bring awareness, and I think it's great to actually have the discussion and to make women feel more comfortable talking amongst each other and being able to tell their stories. But I also believe hashtags are dangerous, that we do sometimes believe that we're doing something, and we need to, you know, have these discussions and prosecute these people in a court of law, and not feel like if we've just said something that we've done something. That we need to, awareness is good, but also action is more important.
But also people use that hashtag, use social media as a platform to share their experiences, so other women may be encouraged to come forward to talk about their own.
Yeah, I think it's healthy. I think it's good to talk. And I've actually been in lunches with women lately where they say, oh, you know, this happened to me when I was young, or this happened to me. It seems to be, you know, around the kitchen table talk more now too, because I mean, as a young person, as a child, you know, and it's difficult maybe to talk about. You don't know if it's right or wrong, but when you do know it's right or wrong, I think we have to take precautions.
Have you
and we have to be smart.
Harassment?
Harassment? Yes. Well, Hollywood. But I always knew. My mother really told me, you know, not to get into a car with strangers, not to go to a hotel room alone. I just had this kind of common sense feeling of how to protect myself. And I think because of the business I was in and because I was in Playboy, I was very cautious of that, of people maybe getting the wrong impression of me. So I do believe that people have been victims of this innocently, and the perpetrator is always at fault. But we also need to remember to not put ourselves in these situations as women.
Which brings me on to my next point. You've also spoken out about Harvey Weinstein and said the victims who went to his hotel room alone knew what they were getting into. Can you understand why there was a backlash against that?
I don't know if they knew what they were getting into, but again, I've been offered to go to hotel rooms to do a private audition. I've gone to a hotel where I thought I was meeting someone in the lobby, and I had people with me, and they asked me to go to their room to talk about these pictures, and I said no. And if an agent sends you to a hotel to meet a producer, they should go with you if this is something where they want to do.
That could be really hard when you're young and at the start of your career. It also implies that the women are at fault for what may happen to them.
They're not at fault, but they need to be, you need to be more protective of yourself. And, these, especially even in colleges, I find, young girls drinking and putting themselves in this situation. These boys have been away from home for the first time. They're, full of testosterone, and especially with what people see on the internet these days, people are just loaded with information. And a woman in that position is in a dangerous position, so you have to be careful. And we can ruin boys' lives and women's lives this way.
But isn't it a little bit like, people watching at home may think, it's similar to victim blaming, and also much in the same way that women are held responsible for assault if they are dressed a certain way, if they look a certain way, if they go to a certain place, if they stay out too late.
Well, I think I'm a good person to discuss this because of my image, and I've just learned to not put myself in positions where I could be in any danger. And I think that's an okay thing to say. And I've had some backlash, but I've also had a lot of support with women saying, thank God for saying this, or men saying, thank God for saying this too. It's kind of a crazy world right now, and I think it's good. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for change, and a lot of opportunity for improving our lives as women and in politics. And even though it seems kind of scary now that Trump is president, I also think that there's a lot of possibility for people with good ideas to come forward and do it better than it was, because I think people did have a problem with the way governments were run, even in Europe as well, that there's hopefully new brains, new ways that are going to come forward. I think it's an opportunity.
Why are you here in London at the moment?
Well, I was here, of all things, moderating a conversation between Renata Avia, Sarah Harrison, and Angela Richter, who are the women of Wikileaks. This is a great little book to get if you want to hear. Julian is surrounded by women, really smart, intelligent, great women who really run this organization. And I think it goes against the narrative people want to believe, because people want to think it's misogynistic kind of WikiLeaks. It's not true. You
went to see Julian Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy yesterday. How was he?
He's in good form. He's, it's a testament to the human spirit. The UN ruling is really important to look at, that he is held under terrible conditions, and it's inhumane and cruel, and he should not be there.
He has Ecuadorian nationality now, so is he planning to leave the embassy anytime soon? Did you speak to him about that?
Oh, wouldn't that be great? But it's impossible for him to leave under any safe circumstances with the extradition pending in the UK, or, we just don't know, so it's not safe for him to leave.
Did you talk about that yesterday?
Yes, we talk about everything. I always make sure he's okay, make sure he's exercising, make sure he's eating well. He doesn't get any sunlight, so it's a very unhealthy situation for him, but he is determined and relentless and in good spirits, and what he is doing is very, very important, and we need to have true information.
He's a controversial figure. You have dual American-Canadian nationality. Yes. Your home country, America, considers WikiLeaks to be a national security threat. How does that sit with you?
I think it's bizarre to have true information be a national security threat. Is bizarre, and to be considered radical for exposing truths, and just truths in full.
Have you tried to use your position to speak to anybody in the American government, such as the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, about his situation?
I haven't been able to get to him, but yes, he has been. Jeff Sessions is has made Julian a priority to arrest, and there is an American, there's a lot of things to be concerned about, but this is the future, and this is a lot of young people who really believe in the movement and want to know what is going on, and we have to find true ways. And I always say, if you're watching CNN, maybe watch RT as well, and you kind of, maybe you can get the truth somewhere in between. I don't know so much about all the British channels, but it's difficult because the channels are run by big corporations, and we're kind of in a Google government world. It's important to understand that technology is also spying on us
Pamela,
and getting information.
How do you respond to criticism of your relationship with Julian Assange?
I'd rather be a friend to Julian than anybody. I think he's so full of information, has such an incredible perspective, and is a genius and is trying to help humanity. And I think that the ultimate goal is to stop these senseless wars. And so how bad is that?
He was also, if we're talking about women, we're talking about the Me Too movement, empowering women. Right. Julian Assange was also accused of rape in 2012. The charges were dropped last year, but did you ever ask him the truth about the sexual assault claims made against him?
Of course, of course. This is very important to me. And it was, you know, that's the best way to discredit somebody is to call them a rapist or a pedophile. How do you get over that, even if it's untrue? So I think this was a setup. This was not something that was true.
But this was a man being investigated over rape. Yes, the investigation was dropped, but is that unquestioning support compatible with your support, for example, for the Me Too movement?
Well, I think if you look at the UN ruling and you can read the details, the embarrassing details of the sexual experiences, and they were very, very nothing. It was nothing. Nothing went wrong. It was an idea to discredit him, to extradite him to the States.
Did you ever ask yourself, what if I'm wrong?
I know I'm not wrong. I know I'm not wrong about this. I know him well enough, and I also know...
You weren't there, we weren't there, I wasn't there.
Yes, but I've read the details of even the case, and if you look at even the... how the UK is treating this and how they've not allowed all this information to come into the public. It's very sordid and bizarre. And as a man and as a mother of 2 young boys, if my sons were in this situation, I'd feel the same way.
Holding the opinions that you do, how do you feel about travelling in the United States, going back home? Where are you living at the moment?
I live in France. And I love living in the south of France. I always wanted to at this point in my life, so I'm very lucky to be there. And I have my house in Malibu, which I rent out. But yes, when I wander around and I'm in circles of, especially Hollywood, who are very Clinton-y, I get a lot of backlash there too. But I can usually talk them down after a while, because it just seems this really raw reaction that is really uninformed. And by the time we talk for a while, people say, oh yes, I understand. We just have this painted picture, especially in America, that I think is interesting, but you have to educate yourself about the issue before you can really have this strong opinion.
Who did you vote for in the US election?
Well, I did vote for Obama the first time that I did vote, and then I voted for Stein in the second, but
Are you friends with Donald Trump?
No, but I did appear, I think it was a birthday, it was a paid appearance, it was years and years and years ago. Who would have thought he would ever be president? You know, I don't...
So you didn't vote for him?
No, I can say that. I can say that. But you know,
like I say, this is... vote for?
I'd rather not, but it was not him and it was not Hillary. It was just very... there's really no good option, right? Except for someone come up with a new idea. Someone needs to. This is what the opportunity is.
And a year on, what do you think of his record?
Well, obviously, I'm an environmentalist. That really upsets me that he is a denier of climate change, and yeah, a lot of his. It's difficult. You know, it's very difficult. But like I say, I'm going to look at this as an opportunity to have someone come forward and do something good. I don't think there's a lot of good options right now, and I think America's a little cuckoo right now.
It'd also be interesting to get your views on Julian Assange playing a key role in getting Donald Trump elected, many would say by releasing hacked Democratic documents linked to the Democratic Party.
Well, those were just Hillary's words, and I think Hillary was responsible for her not winning the election. And it was it's very important for people to understand the truth before they vote for somebody. So I don't think, I know that he did not think that Donald Trump was going to win.
Yeah, and the fact that he's sort of gone from Julian Assange being this left-wing hero to winning the support of right-wing nationalists.
I don't think he has the support I think he has the support of a lot of different people across both boards, but I think obviously they're still trying to arrest him, so Donald Trump is no friend of Julian Assange.
And is it true you're friends with Melania, who famously credited you for going fur-free?
I sent her a fake fur coat from my eco-fur collection that I do in Russia, and it was great that she wrote me this beautiful note back and thanked me, because she was a big fur wearer, and as First Lady I wanted to make sure and hope that she would follow in the footsteps of other First Ladies who don't wear fur, because people look at her for fashion, as a fashion icon.
And a very different reaction from Kim Kardashian.
Well, yeah, I know Kim, you know, and they've always been her family has always been very kind to me and looked up to me, and I would hope that they would use their platform for more good. And wearing fur is just, I mean, they have a faux fur line for kids, which is fantastic. So I was trying to encourage her to wear faux fur too. It looks the same.
Coming back to you, what are your priorities for 2018?
Well, I'm living in France, and there's a lot of animal issues. There's a lot of animals in captivity, circuses, and marine land that I'm going after, anti-corrida, and it's difficult to be vegan in France. I shouldn't say it's difficult, but there can
challenging.
It's challenging, and you know, there's a lot of issues in France that I want to. I met with the mayor of Paris, and we talked about sustainable issues, how to be more involved. And this is what I love to do with my life at this point. I'm actually doing a magic show right now, running around. So between magic shows, I read this book. So it's funny, fire spikes and smoke and, you know, mirrors and all sorts of things, and then
and popping into the embassy to see Julian Assange.
But I like the balance of my life and being in love in France and learning about a whole new culture and learning a new language. I highly recommend it, especially at kind of halfway through your life. It's good to kind of do something really scary and interesting, and it keeps you young.
Well, you look fantastic
Thank
for your
you.
age. Can't believe you're 50, by the way.
Thank you. I can't either.
It's a pleasure.
It's in your mind. My mind is my fountain of youth.
Well, whatever the secret is, I want it.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you so
Pamela.
much. Thank you.